Today's guest on the Golden Hour podcast is John Barr from the channel Here Be Barr. With 200,000 subscribers and over 5 years of experience doing travel vlogging, John has built a following of people who are there to show up and learn about certain cities across the world, learn about food, watch videos in New York City. It's an incredible community, and his channel is really amazing to look at. He now has a full-time editor, full-time shooter, as well as a full-time graphics person doing his thumbnails, and he comes from broadcast journalism. He was actually a sports announcer. So my conversation with John was really interesting, really unique for me. I don't really know much about the travel vlog space, so I learned about that. I also learned about his process as a YouTuber, some of his struggles along the way, and what it was like doing broadcast in a sports arena. So let's listen in on my conversation with John Barr. So we're here today with John Barr. We just met each other here over our live stream, but our mutual friend Jevin Dovey put us together. And yeah, so thanks for coming on the show, John.
Dave, thank you for having me. I mean, any friend of Jevin is a friend of mine. I love doing these podcasts. I've watched a few of your episodes. I think your show is great, so I'm really happy to be here.
Thanks, man. I really appreciate it. So you're out there in New York right now, is that right?
Yeah, I'm in Brooklyn. I've lived in New York for 10 years this October. I grew up in northern New Jersey, across the water, across the Hudson. So this whole area has pretty much always been my home, the tri-state area.
Wow, that's awesome. And how's it going over there? I mean, it seems like based on the news, it's quite like a ghost town, at least for the last, couple of months, especially for your channel and what you do. I would imagine that some things had to shift around this last year.
Oh, things changed a lot with my channel. Things in New York are actually improving like crazy. In fact, this is a topic I have covered relentlessly over the last year, and it's a topic that a lot of my viewers are curious about. What's life like here? Life is improving a lot. In fact,
Yeah.
I literally have statistics because I just did a video. Last I read, our positivity rate for COVID was like 1.5%. Something like 40% of the city has gotten one vaccination shot already. Things are reopening at record speeds. Broadway tickets went on sale today for the
Oh, wow.
big opening of September 14th. By the end of this month, you will be able to go to a bar, sit at the bar, and drink to your heart's content till 4 o'clock in the morning. They are basically stopping all curfews at the end of the month. Like in the next
Okay.
I think next week, outdoor places can stay open as late as they want. And then 2 weeks later, like May 27th, you'll be
Awesome.
able to stay out completely late. Now, I don't know what the bars are going to do as far as crowding. That would kind of scare me a little bit. But
Sure.
I mean, to be able to
Well,
actually do it feels like a win to me.
Well, I mean, I think it is odd, right? We're so triggered nowadays that it does feel scary or whatever. But if you're saying 48% have the shot, I mean, it's statistically things are just getting better. I live here in Nashville, Tennessee. Now I used to live in LA, but it's essentially wide open. We went downtown this weekend for Mother's Day. There was thousands of people like just next to each other. All the bars were wide open going down Broadway, and you hear all the music and everything. It's refreshing to kind of finally be back sort of to normal. And hopefully by the end of this year, we will be. So,
Yeah, I was just in Florida a few weeks ago, maybe 2 weeks ago, and there, like you described, I went to a bar and I sat at the bar and I looked at my wife and I said, "Wow, this feels really weird. We have not done this in
yeah.
13 months. This is crazy to be at a bar right now, just ordering with somebody." And they finally just opened that up in New York. That's like they're doing small, little, gradual changes, but by June 1st, if you're a tourist visiting here, most things that you want are going to be available, with the exception of Broadway, which is going to
Sure.
come, they said, September.
It's kind of slowly opening there.
Yeah.
So tell me about yourself. Like, how did you get into YouTube? You're sitting at almost 200,000 subscribers. You have videos with millions of views. I'm curious to just know about, your story as a professional. Were you involved in video? Were you a performer? How did you get into it? And then, we can transition into like your beginning stages of actually starting your channel?
So I wouldn't say I have an original story, but I have a story that you don't hear that often because so many YouTubers, it's like, oh, I liked filming things, or they had more of a multimedia background on the technical side.
Yeah.
In my case, I was a broadcaster. I started in radio and then I transitioned to television, specifically in the sports fields where I studied in college. I was a journalism major. And looking back on it, a lot of these skills actually came in handy with my YouTube channel. I may not have realized it at first, but looking back over 5 years, I think it definitely helped a lot. Not so much in how to film and how to edit. I had almost zero background in that, but I spent 9 years really chasing this dream of becoming a national sports broadcaster. I wanted to be a play-by-play announcer on TV or radio. I traveled all over the country. I was a minor league announcer. I rode 23-hour bus rides from like Florida to
Wow.
Texas.
Yeah.
Yeah, with guys who were trying to get to the big leagues. I broadcast for the White Sox affiliate in Great Falls, Montana. I saw a lot of the country doing that stuff. I also did Division I college basketball. I did college football. I ended my career doing high school sports on television in the New York City area. I broadcast everything from field hockey to wrestling. I feel like there's not a single sport I didn't broadcast. So I kind of hit a wall with that career after about 9 years or so doing it. I really wanted to get this national gig. I was up for something and it fell through, and I decided like I didn't want to do another year of high school broadcasting on TV. I wanted to see if I'd miss it, so I decided just to step away, and that was June of 2015, and I had about a year off from anything creative. And then approximately April of 2016, May of 2016,
Mm.
I discovered a YouTuber who many vloggers will know, Casey Neistat. Yeah, it
I
seems
think
like a lot of people
we've
have
done
that story.
we've done 120 episodes, and that may have come up at least 100 times.
I'm
It's
sure. I'm sure.
he inspired me as well, but I think for you specifically, being a New Yorker, I'm sure it really resonated with you.
It did resonate, and I saw his videos, and it was sort of kismet, perfect timing, because I had this trip to Europe coming up with my then girlfriend, now wife Adriana. We were going to spend a couple of months in Spain, and I see this guy on YouTube, and I never watched YouTube for vlogs. I'll plead ignorance. I didn't even know what a vlog was in 2016. I just watched YouTube for old movie clips and music videos. That was it. So,
Maybe some
so I
sports highlights.
yeah, maybe some sports highlights. I still watch some sports highlights, but I see what this guy's doing, and I think
Yeah.
to myself, he makes this look so easy. I'm gonna go on planes and say first, and I'm gonna show you cool cities. So I thought to myself, I'll try this. I'll do travel content. I'll tell people what it's like to travel to Spain. And my very first video was almost 5 years ago to the day. Like last week was my 5 year anniversary,
Wow.
and I went back and watched that video, and excuse me, it's kind of crazy to look at like the original stuff that you make, and yeah, I feel like I've come a long way since then, and gradually I transitioned from being a travel creator to, if you ask most people, 9 out of 10 would say I'm a New York City creator right now. Whether I always want to be just known as a New York City creator versus making travel content as well is a different story. But yeah, I suppose you could call me a New York City creator at this point.
Wow, and so it was Casey, like many, who inspired you originally, but you've made it your own thing, and now, here we are 5 years later? Jeez, that's
Yeah.
was Casey really that long ago? Oh my gosh. That's
I
crazy.
mean, I think he kind of
Blew up.
I
Yeah.
don't want to say peaked. I'll say blew up around 2016, 2017.
Yeah,
That was the,
totally.
I don't know, like the mecca of the Casey Neistat era. And then you saw so many vloggers, myself included, really trying to emulate his style, which maybe wasn't the best thing because it's too high of a standard for a
Sure.
novice to reach, especially someone like me who had almost no background in filming or editing to be so naive to think I could make a Casey Neistat vlog. I still don't think I could make a Casey Neistat vlog today, let alone back then.
Well, there was a video that seemed to resonate on your channel. And by the way, the name of your channel for somebody listening is Here Be Barr, which I love that name.
Thanks.
And it's spelled Barr. Um, One of your videos that you posted 4 years ago, which would be somewhat around that time period, you posted a video called "Living Cheap in New York City: $10 for a Day." That video has 2.6 million views. Have you looked at it recently? That's insane, man.
Oh my goodness. That was the first video on my channel to really blow up. And I think that most creators don't realize the kind of attention you get with a viral video like that, the kind of comments you get, the kind of personal stuff people say.
Yes.
Like that was the first time I really saw trolls on my channel. Now I've learned to embrace that stuff because that's a great thing. If you have trolls, it means you're doing something right because trolls won't find bad videos. They're going to find good videos. They're going to find videos that are getting pushed to a big audience. But back then, man, that was nerve wracking to constantly
Yeah.
see like criticisms of a stupid video about living cheap. Yeah.
What were some of the feelings that you had there? Because I also experienced that early in my career. I had a was like a GoPro kind of thing that I got early for a review, and so I was one of the few YouTubers that did a review on it, and it started getting views pretty quickly. Got about 30,000 in a couple of hours, which was good for my channel.
Wow.
And I saw the trajectory. YouTube was pushing it out, and people were watching it. But I made a pretty critical error in the video, and I even pointed it out. I said, "Hey, I made a mistake here, but just look past that. We're just here to look at this thing." Because of that one mistake I made, like people were just so mean. This guy's an idiot. This guy sucks. Why does he get stuff sent to him? And I stayed up all night getting that edit done because it was like, one of those products that comes out and you have to release it at a certain time. And I literally kind of went into like a weird depression and like kind of had a breakdown. I started kind of crying and I fell on the bed and like, my wife was like, your identity is not wrapped up in being a YouTuber. Your identity is you're my husband. I have children, I'm a father. The people that love me, and so like these stupid comments mean nothing. Like they shouldn't affect you, but they do. What was it like going through that for you, and what were some of those things that you learned in that process?
I think that when you get a video that really takes off, it's probably not the best thing if you're new to your channel. I think it would be a lot healthier if you had videos kind of gradually growing rather than that explosion where the comments just flood in. I
Yeah,
had a lot of similar things that I learned to what you were saying that like they're just commenting based on a video. They don't really know you. I think we take a lot of these comments too personally. And I would say that after dealing with something like that, like there's literally very few comments that ever affect me. And it's always dumb stuff. It was mostly I don't like the way he chews. His face bothers me, blah blah blah. It was never, almost never, I don't like that jump cut at 115 because if people trolled me on stuff like that, I might pay attention. But it was
yeah,
always such stupid things. And plus, it gave me a whole list of those banned words you can put as a creator. Like a lot of viewers don't know this, but there
mhm,
were certain words like someone like I have a little space between my teeth. I got a lot of comments. I don't know what's bigger, this guy's ego or the gap between his teeth. Like such stupid things. So I put like teeth, gap, and all these comments these words that I put years later, they're all getting flagged and they don't even make the channel anymore. So I
that's
think
good.
I learned that you can control your audience a bit with things like that. But I just don't take it personally anymore. I mean, I think of it like being a professional athlete, slightly different. But let's say you're playing outfield at Yankee Stadium and you're the opposing team and they're yelling at you. I always
Yeah,
wondered how those players dealt with it, and I think I realized that they've just heard it so many times they don't care anymore. That's the way I
yeah,
feel now. There's very few comments that would affect me, very little at this point. But you got to go through it. You have to go through that
sure.
moment and see what it's like to get that kind of negative attention.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you have to kind of develop a thick skin. I agree. I think if you're able to slowly ramp into it, it would be better. But there are these random videos and it's funny how the algorithm works. It's like you never know what could hit. It could just be the right timing, and then YouTube just sends it out to a couple people. They click on it, they watch it, and YouTube's like, "All right, we're gonna blast this out to 100,000 people," and then all of a sudden you get this. And it's always the video that you like try the least on too,
Oh yeah. And that video was interesting because I created it, I believe, October 2016, and I always tell this story. That video had 250 views after 48 hours. So for anyone who ever complains that their video didn't get enough views. My highest viewed video ever had 250 views in the first 2 days.
Hmm.
And out of nowhere, it just exploded. And I think that that was because that niche on YouTube was starting to pick up, this whole like living cheap, cheap eats challenges. Excuse me. Like that whole niche on YouTube was just starting to pick up. Now there's tons of channels everywhere doing like surviving on $1 a day. It's just a viral topic, and I didn't realize it at the time. And YouTube eventually did push it, and people did like it. And it's sometimes, sometimes I wish I could recreate that magic exactly, but it's difficult to get 2 million view videos. I think we can all agree on that.
Of course. Well, here we are now today, and are you a full-time YouTuber? Do you supplement it with other odd jobs here and there, freelance, or are you a full-time creator right now?
I think you could generally characterize me as a full time creator. I mean, I have some other things that I might dabble in from time to time, some investments. But I would say at
Dogecoin.
this, no, not Dogecoin. I have a little Bitcoin, but no, not Dogecoin. That's funny. Um, no, mostly YouTube. And I think in the last couple of years, with the view count going up, it has been easier to make it a career. Now, it wasn't so easy at first,
Yeah.
but over time, I feel like the more you can invest in your product and the better you become, the more opportunities that will present themselves.
Well, now that you've had the perspective, you've had these years as a creator on YouTube, you've had the experience as a sports announcer. What are some of the things that looking back on that period of time that that you learned, but also things that you maybe don't miss so much? Like, were there aspects of that job that you just didn't enjoy at all, or things that you even miss now? I mean, you said you took a break to see if you would miss it. Do you miss it in some ways?
I don't think I miss it that much. I think that maybe I burned myself out a little bit watching so much sports. I was literally just talking to my wife about this today. We were coming back from our supermarket in Brooklyn. I said, I must have watched 400 to 500 baseball games over the course of 5 seasons. And
Oh my
when you're a
gosh.
broadcaster, it's not like going to the game with your friends and drinking a beer and kind of half paying attention to most of the game unless it's a big moment. This is, you've got the notes in front of you. You know all the players on both teams. You've talked to the coaches. You know all the strategies. You have all the stats posted everywhere. You are fully zoned in. So I think deep down, I was not such a big sports fan, but I was just looking for my creative outlet, and sports broadcasting was that outlet. It was a way for me to inform people, but it was also a fun job because you could get excited about big moments. It was like you were telling a story about what was going on. And I think I'm still doing that. It's a different audience and it's a different subject matter, but in the end, I'm still informing people about a topic. I'm still doing research on things. I'm still getting excited. Maybe I'm getting excited about trying an amazing burger or a slice of pizza
Yeah.
versus the play at the plate, but there's still things that are similar between the two. So as far as like missing something from it,
Mm.
I guess the only thing I would say is there was always those moments where you'd have a really big game and I don't know, bottom of the ninth inning, bases loaded, and people are listening closely.
Yeah.
And I know that especially on radio was more fun, I think, where like you could really get those emotions just by the way that you spoke. It's like your voice was a weapon. I really
Yeah.
liked that actually. I like that power. It was cool for me. I'm not saying it was a power trip, but I just felt like I was
Yeah.
providing entertainment there. So that was maybe that's the
100%.
one thing I miss. Yeah.
And the live aspect of it is invigorating for sure. I mean, I can only compare it to my experience as a magician. I was a professional illusionist for 6 years, and being on
Yeah.
stage and being able to kind of control an audience live is
Yeah.
invigorating. And you sort of get that when you do like a live stream or something on YouTube a little bit, but not really because
It's I
there's
mean
no feedback.
I mean, you do have the IRL streamers. Like I have a friend in New York named Action Kid. He's one of the biggest IRL streamers in New York. Although he's running, I don't want to go into it, but he's running into some trouble. Just you stream in public. You don't know who's going to come up to you. When I
Yeah.
do a live stream, I would do it like this. I would do it from home. I was actually thinking of doing one for 200,000 subscribers, maybe. I
Oh,
rarely do
cool.
live streams anymore. So you do bring up a good point. I wasn't thinking about it, but you're right. When I do my stuff, I'm not saying I'm trying to be perfect, but when I record something, I know that I can always re record it. The
Yeah, you can
problem
edit
when
it.
I'm
Yeah,
doing, yeah, you can always edit. The problem, I guess, when you're doing a food video is, you want that first bite to be good. You want to have a good reaction to it, but you can
yeah,
always edit it out somehow. You can always cover it up. So I do miss that live aspect a little bit.
sure.
That is a great point. I didn't think about that, but the live part was a lot of fun.
I I I want to get to the YouTube stuff, but I am fascinated because I'm a brand new F1 fan, Formula One, and I am so like sucked into it now. I am a huge fan of it. Lewis Hamilton is just winning everything, and Max Verstappen, the new guy, he's coming up. But one of the things that really stood out to me is there's like two or three announcers on F1, and it's the same guys. It seems like it's been the same two guys for the last couple of years. And as soon as that race starts, man, they just hook you in, and like there's there I pay for the subscription, and you can like see the feed from the race drivers. You can like literally see what, their hands, and you can even like see some other stats and things. But I just want to watch the edit with the announcers, because it's amazing how much more excitement that the announcers bring. I have to think like there's moments where you can, like, they're bringing so much energy, but there's not much going on, and it's like that's such a unique skill set to essentially, I mean, you're acting, because you're obviously not always excited 100% of the time, but and there it is for another grand slam, or whatever. I mean, that's a big one. A grand slam would be a big deal, but like a first base run isn't that exciting, right? So like uh
Yeah.
I would imagine that it plays beautifully for being a YouTuber, because I think it's something that people tend to overlook, is the performance aspect of being a creator. There's so many people who get started on YouTube who have success, who maybe don't have a performance background, and they don't necessarily consider themselves an actor or a performer in any way, but you're obviously on camera. People are being entertained by the content, so you therefore are an entertainer. And so, having for me as a magician, I think knowing how to perform has helped me greatly. And I would imagine being an announcer and essentially having to fake excitement at certain points because
Yeah.
come into play, right?
Well, I would say it was a blessing and it was a curse as I look back at some of my first, I don't know, 10, 20 videos, and I could tell people to do this and find out for themselves. I think that I was too announcery when I started on YouTube. I think I was trying to be this travel show host, and I started to realize that you didn't need to be a host, you just needed to be yourself.
Mm.
So I actually feel like I toned it down over the last few years, where I would really put on this strong broadcastery voice when I started. So it was good, but I thought it was too much. And also, um, it was weak. Now I have a camera guy for most of my videos, but I never did videos, even when I was doing TV, where you don't see sportscasters holding a camera and vlogging in public and walking around. These are skills they don't teach you in broadcasting school, I'll tell you. When I first held that camera out, I'll never forget my first video outside just practicing. Like I was looking at the viewfinder. I was nervous that people were going to be around, because you're in a closed off booth. Most of the time, people can't hear you there. It's very different than walking in public and vlogging and having more attention on you. People are watching and listening, but that to me was never scary. What was scary to me was people like staring at me while I'm talking about food, and like all the tables are watching, like, oh. So
Wow. Yeah.
there were some strengths that I had with it. And I'll give you a great example. I was just talking to another YouTuber about this. I could do a video where I walk around my neighborhood and I'm giving updates about New York, and I have little notes, and I can ad lib so well because of all those years doing broadcasting. Like I'm just good at looking at a little script and quickly paraphrasing what I need to say. I think that I have an advantage on that, like writing scripts, and but
Yeah.
these are things that I did for so many years.
So you were just given that's a great point. I think that's sort of what I was trying to say, is like it's amazing how in period, a race on F1 is 2 hours. I mean, a baseball game is several hours long. There's only certain moments that are exciting. You have to fill all this time, especially radio. You kidding me? Like you have to literally not only explain what's happening so that somebody listening can follow along, but also make it interesting when they're in the dugout on a timeout. Like, what are you going to talk about, you know?
Yeah, it's true. And I also think having a background in journalism and a background in sports broadcasting, it helped me be more concise. Like I don't
Mm,
generally do very long videos compared to maybe some other creators. I love 8 to 12 minute videos, 10 minutes max.
yeah,
I
I
like
see that. Yeah.
I know when to cut right as I get to a point, and I know how to get to the point quickly. And these
Mm,
aren't things that I realized were important until years later. I'm like, okay, well, that's where you learn that from. Like, I think I have a good ear and eye for my content too. I just feel like I have a good idea of what the viewer wants. And I think doing all that journalism stuff
absolutely.
definitely was beneficial.
Well, let's get into that now. So you're basically, I mean, you've said it a couple times here. People see you as a food New York, vlogger, but I mean, what do you see yourself as? What do you identify your channel?
I see myself as a travel YouTuber who's, for many reasons, been kind of stuck in New York because he hasn't been able to travel as much as he would like.
Uh-huh.
I don't know if that's a fair description, but that's kind of what it is.
Well, it works
I,
out that New York's one of the best cities in the world. So,
Yeah, I had this gem right under my nose. Like literally, I was living in an amazing spot to make YouTube content. And up until 2018, I was mostly a travel YouTuber. The problem with travel YouTube is that you go to certain countries and you get a lot of views, and you leave those countries and you lose the views, you lose the viewers. And I've seen I this happened to me horribly in Mexico. I was there for 4 months, and I think I was getting something like, I mean, it wasn't crazy, maybe 5 to 10,000 views a video. And a lot of the viewers were local Mexicans who were very happy that I was American living there. And I was saying good things about the country. I'm very positive. I wasn't really being critical. And then as soon as I left and I came back to New York, I had a huge dip in views. Then I went on a trip to Japan. I'll never forget this. I did a video about Kyoto. I had 20,000 subscribers at the time. And the next day, I believe I had something like 300 views. And I thought to myself, how is this possible? Is YouTube angry at me? I have 20,000 subscribers, but I have 300 views on a good video about Kyoto. And it was at that time that I realized the importance of audience and your
yeah.
audience watching you for a certain thing. And I am not this big personality creator. Maybe I was naive in the past, but I realize that people watch me more for the content of what I'm talking about than my life. And I don't get super personal all the time. So it's also my fault. I'm not like, guys, here's how I'm feeling today. I'm not one of those creators who people are really watching just for them. They're watching me for what I make, which is fine. But if I veer off topic, or in that case, veer off country, you lose a ton of views. And that was what got frustrating to me about the travel content. So I got so burned out by 2018. I even made a video called Burned Out from Traveling the World. I said it in 2018. I said, I'm tired of traveling so much. I'm going to double down on New York City. And by that December, about 3 or 4 months later, my channel started to explode because a few of my New York City guides did well.
Mm.
And then a couple of things happened. One was, and this is not a bad thing, I got married. However, my wife is from Mexico and her green card had to process. So she couldn't leave the country from, was it February of 2019 until September of 2019. And
Oh
she
my
was here
goodness.
she was here on a tourist visa when she entered in like September. So I actually have not left North America since 2018. I've been to Canada, Puerto Rico, Mexico, and the US. That's it. This
Oh
coming from a
wow.
guy who made content in Japan, Morocco, Europe. I am dying to get back out there. So we had that hold me back for a little while. And then we had huge travel plans for 2020 in March 2020, I was supposed to go to the UK, Italy, Sicily, and weeks before the trip, COVID happened. So it's just like
Yeah.
one thing after another has held me back from getting to some travel content. And I do want to get back to those roots. I still consider myself a travel creator, but like a travel creator who does a lot of New York City content. I'm like, I'm based here, but I still want people to
Yeah.
know that I'm willing to make content other places too. Yeah.
That's awesome. And I think now that It's probably worked out to your advantage that all this happened in a way, because you've been able to build a following and a fan base, I would imagine, that have connected with you personally more so than back when you were in Mexico, so now that you're about to hit 200,000, and honestly by the time this podcast is live you may have hit it already. So if you're listening and you're at 199, so I don't see why not. Like, anybody who's listening to this show right now, go subscribe to Here Be Bar, and let's get him to 200K. Let's do it.
Thanks, Dave. I appreciate it.
I don't see why not. But yeah, I don't know where I'm going with it, other than I would imagine that when you do get out there again, you hopefully won't see that dip because you've been able to build a more solid fan base.
I'd like to think that. I mean, for example, I just went to Chicago this past weekend and I filmed one video with a local YouTuber. And I'm not expecting that video to do super well out of the gate. In fact, I'm expecting it to do poorly compared to my other content. However, I feel like if you make quality stuff, that sooner or later it's going to get picked up. So
Yeah.
maybe my travel stuff won't get the regular view count that I would get on a good New York video. But if it's a good video, I'm sure that over time it will do well.
So you mentioned you have a camera guy now, but back in the day you didn't. How did you learn to vlog, and how did you kind of get over that awkward hump of vlogging in public by yourself?
Just a lot of trial and error, a lot of different cameras. I actually started with this awful camera. It was a Canon Vixia.
Uh
They
huh.
said in 2016. They said it was the ultimate vlogging camera. It was this wide angle lens, so you couldn't even zoom. It was literally just a wide lens. It had an excellent microphone, but it wasn't the camera that I probably should have started with. Then after like was it 6 or 7 months, I switched to the G7X Mark II, which is a wildly popular vlogging camera. I used that for ooh, 2 years, I think, and now I have a Canon M50, which I
Yeah.
got before that ill-fated trip to Japan in 2018. So I've had the same vlogging camera for 3 years now. I probably would have upgraded it already if I didn't find my camera guy, but I still film videos without him from time to time. Lately, he's like 80, 90% of my videos, but I will make them without him. And I have a big trip planned this summer. So I'm looking to purchase a new camera. Maybe you can give me
Nice.
some advice. Maybe you can give me advice. But the problem is I love that the M50 is so lightweight and so
Yeah.
portable. Most of the cameras that I like are just too heavy. And when you're doing travel stuff, the issue with travel is you're running around. You don't want this beast in your arm all day.
Yeah.
It'd be
Yeah.
different
Yeah.
if I had a home office setup, like a home studio. Then I'd get the
Sure.
nicest camera. I wouldn't care. But you need something that's going to be in your backpack. I want to hold
Yep.
it on a little tripod. It's got to be durable. I don't want it to be too big. So I don't know if you can help me with this, but
Oh
yeah,
yeah,
I'm
man.
open to
I'm already
suggestions.
So obviously the best would be the A7S from Sony, in my opinion, because it gives you the flexibility of the low light performance. That thing can go to like 200,000 ISO. It's insane.
Mhm.
Which means, for a travel vlogger, being able to be at this random mom and pop hole in the wall restaurant at 10 o'clock at night with available light, with string lights being your entire lighting in Sicily, like being able to go to 50,000 ISO and have clean footage is going to be extremely valuable as a travel creator. That camera is bigger um, than the M50. It's still mirrorless, so it's nowhere near the size of like a 80D, which is what Casey used to vlog on. So it still is smaller than that. But Sony makes an even smaller camera that you may know of. It's called the A7C. It's actually the world's smallest full frame camera. And Sony makes some other lenses that are very small, compact. The A7C is full frame, and it's actually smaller than most all mirrorless cameras. Well, I mean, it is the smallest one of all time. So that might be a good option. It is definitely better. It definitely is a little bit bigger than the M50, but I think with some practice and some time, you'll get used to it. And it's still not big, at all. Um, and it's full frame, so you're going to get the benefit of a much better low light performance. It does, really crispy 4K footage. And it's got the mic jack in the right placement. So you can put a mic on it and still flip your screen around, and it doesn't get in the way of the mic when you flip the screen. That's the thing that I hated about the M50 is when you plug a mic in
Oh,
and you try to flip the screen, it gets in the way of the mic with
Don't get me
the
started on that camera, please. We could have a whole podcast about why I'm angry with that camera right now. So.
I'm interrupting this podcast briefly to remind you guys to please subscribe down below and please enable the bell notification. That way you could be one of the first people to click on the video and watch it. Now, I understand that podcasts are really long, so it's not like you're just going to click it and watch it right away, but I do want you guys to know when these things go live so that you can kind of queue it up and watch it at your own leisure. I find myself watching a lot of YouTube podcasts while I'm editing or while I'm driving. I obviously lock the screen. I don't just stare at the phone the whole time. But no, please subscribe to the show and show your support by leaving a comment down below. Let me know what you think of the show so far. All right, let's get back to my conversation. Well, it's funny, that camera really made my channel blow up. I got one. I used to host a channel called Kinotika. That was the first YouTube channel that I had. And I reviewed that camera when it first came out, and the video went viral. And so I made like 5 or 6 other videos about it. And all of them get hundreds of thousands of views. I think the one official review is about to hit 1 million views pretty soon. And it's still, that camera to this day is still one of Canon's top sellers. It's just for the value and for the quality, it's the bang for buck, the size. It's still like a great all arounder. I mean, right now you could probably buy one on eBay for maybe $300, which is crazy.
It's a solid camera for a vlogger, but I think if you want to take your game up to the next level, it just does not have high enough quality, and the stabilization.
It's old too. I mean, it's
annoyed me. I'm wondering why I haven't upgraded my camera. Like I actually went to B&H in New York. That's one of the cool things about living in New York City, that we have B&H at our fingertips. And I was with my camera guy. We were going through some stuff. He was telling me what he thinks I should buy.
I was wondering if that's where you went, because I see 2 months ago, the truth about NYC's Hasidic Jewish community. I was like, that looks like he's in front of B&H over there.
No, that actually had nothing to do with them. Even though, yes, that's actually the tough thing about B&H. And I'm Jewish myself. I'm more culturally than religious, but going there, if you don't realize that it's Hasidic Jewish owned, there's a lot of Jewish holidays. They take off for every holiday.
I know.
So you come to New York and they'll be closed for a week for Passover. Kind of crazy.
Well, yeah, it's kind of funny. Like when I was a freelance filmmaker and director and stuff, it's always like, oh, we need, hey, can you buy some more gaff tape or get a lens or whatever? It's like, B&H is closed again. Dang it. Like they're always closed.
It's happened to me a couple, even I'm Jewish and it's happened to me. It's happened. I think one time I went Saturday, and they were closed.
Like I'm always browsing for stuff on Saturdays or Friday. Yeah. It's like, we're closed now. It's like, what? Come on.
But no, it's a great store. They are so friendly. Everybody. It's a great store.
Customer service is top notch. I always buy from them. I don't care about, the holidays. It doesn't bother me that much. It's worth it to wait and buy it from them because they're such a quality company. Yeah. And, I support the fact that they're, very diligent and religious and, good for them. That's really, that takes a lot of courage and guts to do that. When it's hurting their business, they still believe strongly that that's so crucial and important in their lives, that their priorities are straight. They're putting their family and their faith before the success of the business. And, some would argue that it's working for them because they're very successful. So I've heard like Chick-fil-A is they make more money than all fast food in America combined, and they're closed on Sundays, so it's like, it doesn't really matter. Right. So
there's actually, there's a topic I wanted to bring up if you're interested. And cause I've been thinking about this. I've never talked about this on an interview ever, but I've really been thinking about how like going down that traditional media broadcasting route can be so limiting versus doing something like YouTube, where like you have an open canvas. Is it okay if I say something about that?
Of course, please.
Okay. No, so I have been really contemplating my past career. I've done a couple of videos where I talked about my old job, and I had somebody say something interesting. He said, John, I don't think you failed at being a broadcaster. I think you just pivoted into something else, and you're still using those skills. And I look back specifically at the sports broadcasting profession, and hindsight's 2020. I think leaving college, I had probably a few strikes against me. Now, if you watch any game on television, and this takes nothing away from sports broadcasters, they're so hardworking. It's a very competitive field. I respect anyone who's made it to the top. This isn't sour grapes on my part, but you watch any broadcast, most of those guys sound exactly the same. It's like they want this archetype, at least for the guys. For the women, it's different. But if you're a male in sports broadcasting, usually they want you to have this like traditional deep baritone voice.
Yeah.
So, I have a decent voice, but I never had that kind of like deep pipes. And this was even something that trying to get an agent, they used to say to me, oh, you sound kind of young, your voice is too thin. That was strike one. Strike two was that I did not go to one of the broadcasting powerhouse colleges. Look through the ranks of ESPN or I don't know, NBC Sports. You're going to see Syracuse all the time. There's a couple of schools like I don't know, Ithaca's another one. Maybe was it Kansas or USC? If you went to one of these schools, or Fordham in New York City, maybe Seton Hall, the doors were a little bit easier to open, which gets me to the last point because decision makers, a lot of them went to those schools.
Yeah.
So in YouTube, there's nobody out there who's going to tell me I can't make a video titled 24 Hours in Chicago.
Yeah.
There's no one who's saying, oh, we can't put that on the Travel Channel. I'm sorry. I'm the producer. I'm a director. I decide. Unless I say something
Exactly.
stupid, no one holds you back. But for me, I couldn't broadcast a national game because none of the hiring guys wanted me. None of the agents wanted me. So you have doors that you have to open. And with YouTube, you can skip the door and open your own doors. And that's something that I really find refreshing about social media. And this stuff wasn't even around. When I graduated college in 2006, I couldn't have done this. I couldn't have said, I want to go make a travel show. The opportunities that kids have in college today compared to when I graduated 15 years ago, it's insane. It is insane what you
Oh
can
yeah.
do these days without having to know the right people, having the right look, having the right voice. You can just skip that stuff now. This is what I really
Yeah.
love most about YouTube. Rant over.
100%, man. I mean, I really resonate with that personally because I was a freelance director and filmmaker for 10 years. And I would pitch these ideas and projects to music labels. I was doing music videos here in Nashville. And, I felt like they were great ideas and I really wanted to do them. And they'd be like, "Oh, this is a great idea, but can we just have the guy sitting in a barn with, everybody's sitting in a circle singing the song?" I'm like, "Well, the whole point was to be different, like, And they're like, "Oh yeah, that's a great idea, but we should probably still have him like sitting in the back of a truck, in a barn." I'm like, "Okay, well, this isn't for me." And so I started doing YouTube, and it was so freeing coming from the video world and working with producers and directors and different labels and all that kind of bull crap where I was like, wait, I am the creative director here. There's no barrier here. And Casey Neistat really opened that up for me in realizing that. And I think he realized that himself. So it's just so powerful. And my wife gets on to me because we'll meet somebody, at a party or, church or whatever. And it's like, oh, I build tiny homes, or whatever. I'm like, oh, you should start a YouTube channel. That's interesting. And they're like, what? And Laura, my wife, she's like, David, not everybody wants to be a YouTuber, So I'm like,
That sounds exactly like me. I would have done the same thing. Oh, you should do a YouTube channel about that completely. Yeah, we're spreading the gospel about the power of YouTube.
exactly.
Once you're in that club, you want everybody to join. Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. And it's funny as you mature in your on your time on YouTube, you want different things too. It's like, I mean, I'm sure you were like to get 100,000 subscribers was like, astronomically high and unobtainable in a way when you were starting out. But here you are about to hit 200. And for me, being able to, I was hosting Indie Mogul, that over 1 million subscribers, one of the oldest YouTube channels on YouTube. I was the host, and that was such a ridiculous dream job, but it still wasn't enough. It was like, okay, I want to get more views. I need to make more money. I want to do this instead.
It's never enough. It's never enough views. Whatever you get, you always want more. I've learned that. Trust me. Like it's it's never enough. And the first day of your video, you're always, not always, but a lot of times like, oh, I thought this video would do better.
Yeah.
Sometimes the expectations are too high, and we think we can control what the viewers want, but um, deep down, it's them who's they're clicking the button to watch, not you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sometimes what we think will work is not what they want, and then sometimes
Mhm.
we get surprised that they actually liked a video, or
How
preaching
do
to
you
the
balance?
choir.
If that's the case, then how do you balance that yourself? How are you working on that? I mean, you mentioned your wife. I imagine you guys have, a private and close relationship outside of the camera. Is that how you balance it? Time with her, time with family, friends, stuff like that?
Yeah, I mean, I don't
Working
really,
on it.
I don't really do daily vlog style that much. Like every now and then I'll do, like lately I've tried to do these videos where I'll talk about a topic in New York. It's easy now because things are reopening. I just did a video. What did I title it? I titled it. It was good. It was New York City is about to change. And my thumbnail looked like this. I was just kind of like contemplating. And I'm like, no one's going to watch this. The video has like almost 30,000 views. And it was mostly me talking about
Yeah,
New
that's
York
right. Yeah.
City updating. But I also bumped into my wife while she was there. I went to a cafe and she was drawing something, and I showed that. And then I showed myself ordering salad at my local deli. So most of my stuff, I'm not getting so personal. Usually it's more like a guide. Like, we're in this neighborhood. I'm hanging out with this person who lives here, or I'm hanging out with these people. This person, they're Chinese American. We're going to Flushing, Queens, Chinatown. They're going to show me around. Usually it's more about the content. So for me, it's not too difficult because my channel isn't so much like, this is the day to day of John Barr being a YouTube
Yeah.
creator. It's more like John's going to show you New York, or John's going to show you travel. So I haven't had that kind of stress where it's like a family vlog where it's like,
Yeah.
these are my kids, this is my wife. I do bring her on, but it's not something that's all the time. So it's a little
Sure.
easier for me. Yeah.
Well, that brings me to another question. How do you find these people? Is it just random? You're walking down the street, or you're like, hey, I'm gonna decide to go to this part of town, and we'll just see what happens. See who we run into, see what kind of things happen, or is it more planned out and structured?
It's more planned out because of my personality. I think there are creators out there. I'll give a great example. What's his name? Bald and Bankrupt. You know who he is?
No, I don't. I'm
He's a
not super
very
into that niche. So bald and
Oh, it's
bankrupt.
okay. Yeah, he's I don't know if he's bankrupt anymore with having over 1 million subscribers, but he's still bald. So he travels the world, and he films on this little Sony camera that's a wide angle lens, and it's 99% him just talking. There's almost no B-roll, but he's a type where he could just go talk to people and kind of put the camera down and get them to interact with him in a very entertaining way. I can't do that. I don't think I have the extroverted personality to run around like that. I plan things out. As far as my guests, I get them a lot of ways. Sometimes I know them already. Sometimes a friend will recommend. Other times I've seen them on YouTube on other channels. Like the
Mm,
guy in the Hasidic Jewish video, he did a whole series with another YouTuber about the Hasidic Jewish community. I said, "Hey, I want to do my version of that video, my style. Do you want to do it with me? Let's collab." He said, "Sure." I've seen people on channels. I don't know if I've ever just met someone randomly and said, take, I've never just met someone and said, hey, take me around your neighborhood. It's usually pre planned. Or if I know the area, I might just do it myself. But that's one thing that's changed on my channel a lot in the last year or so. I've been very big on these collaborations. Maybe I'm trying to copy Anthony Bourdain, but I just
mm.
prefer to have someone who really knows an area well give me their local
Yeah.
input. I feel like it adds an extra dimension to the videos that wouldn't be there if I'm trying to act like this New York City know-it-all. If I walked around the Bronx, I walk around the Bronx and I'm like, guys, here's where to go in the Bronx. I could do the video, I could look up stuff, but it's never going to be as good as me having someone that's born and raised there showing me around.
Now, do you do all your own editing?
So this is a good question for me right now because in the last 5 years, I edited probably 99% of my videos, a few exceptions. Just recently, I've been testing different editors out. I had
Cool.
my camera guy was doing some editing. Now I've got a new guy who's going to edit one video a week for me. I was afraid to give away the editing because I have the time to do it, but I realized that there's people who could just edit better than me. They can edit tighter than me. They have abilities with graphics, with After Effects that I don't have the time to learn, or honestly, I just don't have the interest in learning it. I
Yeah.
just want when I was editing, my goal was to get this thing out as quickly as possible. There's people
Same
out there
here.
who, yeah, there's people out there who can take my stuff to the next level. So now I'm
That's awesome.
slowly but surely allowing others to edit my stuff, and I don't know what that flow is going to look like. But right now, it's once a week with a
And
professional editor, and then the
the
other
thing that
video I'll edit.
Yeah, the thing that frees you up too is that, if you can automate that and get more editors involved, then you do have the time to edit, right? But that also means that if they're doing it, now you have time to do an extra video maybe each week, So
Yeah,
um it you're able to shift things around, and by having editors you can even just take time off and spend time with your wife, stuff
yeah,
like that.
that's a big one. We're always joking that I do all these videos around New York, but how often do me and her have a date night where I don't
Yeah.
have a camera with me? That has actually been tricky. So I've been happy. I've had more time just for her, just to go and explore New York with her, and go to a happy hour, go to brunch or something. Yeah.
Are you this is kind of a deep question, but are you satisfied creatively? Are you happy right now?
I would say that I am satisfied creatively because I'm trying to make the channel actively better. I think I definitely maybe hit a rut a year or two ago where I was
Mm,
sort of floundering, like, okay, this is a lot of the same stuff, but I've got a camera guy who's really good. And my last video about Flushing Queens, I had for the first time ever, in my opinion, a professional camera guy with a professional editor. We mixed these two things together, and I created something that I was very proud of watching it. And I thought, wow, like, look how far I've come from
yeah.
this shaky, horrible vlog 5 years ago to I had two guests with me. I had a camera guy with me, and I had some professional editor putting this all together. It almost, I don't want to say it was like a TV show, but it was the closest I've ever had to a TV show. And I thought,
Yeah.
wow, I don't think I ever imagined I could get to this level. But when you start to have people that are really good at a certain skill assisting you, it doesn't take away from you as a creator. You're just making the end product better, even if I'm not filming and I'm not editing.
Yeah, 100%. What's been the response from your audience, seeing that change? Have you noticed anybody calling it out like, "Hey, all of a sudden these are getting better," or
I,
anything
I've
like that?
had I've had compliments about the shooting. I think it's too early with the editing, and obviously when you work with a new editor, there's things that we have to work on. He did an amazing job, but I told
Mm,
him, like, I felt like the video maybe was a little too BuzzFeedy, like
okay.
it
Yeah.
was a little too polished, and I wanted to get back to a slightly more natural, raw style. So we're going to work on it. But he did
Yeah.
incredible. He did things. He put my face on a $5 bill and had it pop up. I watched this. I'm like, Adriana, you've got to see this. Oh my God, look what this guy did. He did all sorts of crazy stuff that I didn't even tell him to
Yeah.
do.
It's
So I
funny.
think, yeah,
I was just sorry to cut you off. I think there's a slight delay on our feed here. I apologize, but
it's okay.
the thing that you saying that makes me think of my conversation with Hayden Hillier Smith. If you haven't listened to it, I would definitely listen
I
to it. He's
watched some of it. He's great.
Oh my gosh, I think every YouTuber should watch his stuff. You don't have to watch my interview; just watch his content. But he's Logan Paul's editor, and he talks about the intentionality behind the scrappiness of the things that they're doing. And clearly, Logan Paul, multi millionaire, making tens of millions of dollars, could afford a film crew and fancy editors. But Logan Paul, one of the biggest YouTubers on the planet, has one videographer and one editor, and that's it. And they keep it small, they keep it quick and scrappy. They make the quality of their content is the story, not the production value, if you will, of the way it's shot. So it's interesting to hear you say that. When you hire out these freelance editors, especially in New York, you get these guys that probably are really, really sharp, really sexy editors there, and it's kind of like you got to teach them, like, hey, we're not editing a commercial or a documentary here. We're editing a YouTube video, and it's a completely different language for an editor to learn.
Yeah, and I was actually watching your interview with Hayden, and he said something that really resonated well with me that I've been thinking about the last week. And as much as we don't want to hear it as YouTube creators, he said it well. When people go and watch Netflix, they want to sit their butts down and watch for an hour or however long the show is. They want to binge watch. YouTube is more of a distraction space. And if you don't edit a certain way, you could lose that viewer quickly. And
Mm,
that's like, even with my editor now, no matter what video we're doing, the first 30 seconds or so, I'm going to tell him to a T what scenes I want. He could play with it a little bit, but I'm going to say, I want this first 30 seconds because I have a vision of what we want in the intro.
mm.
And I'm going to stick to that vision because I've realized that having a tight intro is one of the most important things you can do as a creator.
100%. Obviously, thumbnails are another big key of that, and your thumbnails are great. At what point did you start getting really intentional about your thumbnail design? And do you take a photo, specifically for that moment? Do you pull screenshots from the videos, a little bit of both, or?
I actually have a graphic designer who's a YouTube creator too, and he was a professional. I think he got laid off about a year or two ago, but he still does other work with it. So now he does more freelance stuff. This is a guy who was working for some big companies, and he does my thumbnails. So he's so good that a lot of times I'll say, "This is a title of the video. Come up with something for me," and he comes up with these off the wall concepts that are great. Like, I'm not going to say they're clickbait, but he does a lot of good background stuff. And he has so many photos of me that I'll tell you, for my video coming up in Chicago, I took a picture by the water. It was a beautiful day in Chicago. The water is like almost aqua blue. And I said, just insert me in there. He has like 10 different pictures of me from old thumbnails and put the word Chicago. So there's a lot of intentionality, a lot. Like with food, especially now we're working on something where we make the food kind of shine a little bit. There's a little shine we're adding to it. And, I'd like to have an expressive look on my face. I want the food to look really good. If we do a food video, I don't take pictures of all the food. I'll tell him, like, find it on the internet somewhere, a pork bun, or we're in Chinatown, a Peking duck bun, and he finds them and he puts them in. And I might be holding a chicken skewer in my hand, but he'll like blow the chicken skewer up. And he does good
Wow.
job. If you look at that last thumbnail, he did a great job on that. So yeah, my thumbnail guy is really good. So I give him full credit for that.
Again, who would have thought 5 years ago, if you'd be able to speak to yourself and say you're gonna have a thumbnail guy full time?
Yeah, you're gonna have a graphic designer, an editor. You're gonna have a videographer. Yeah, it's like I never ever would have. I wouldn't have even thought about the possibility of any of this stuff about
That's
YouTube
awesome, man.
paying my bills. This was never a thought for me. It's just a hobby, and
Mm.
it's not to say that you're wrong if you start YouTube to make money, because it's a viable career path for the right person. But that wasn't what got me into it. I just wanted to make fun videos and be creative because I was missing that after leaving broadcasting.
What you mentioned money, making money. Obviously, you make money. What are your streams of income for your channel?
Um, I would say usually, though this could change this month, usually AdSense is my biggest stream of income.
Interesting. Yeah.
There's many creators who don't say that. I think one of the reasons for me is I'm very picky about brand deals. I'm not going to do, what was it, like League of Legends, some little computer game. I'm like, I'm not putting this on my channel. I'm not that kind of a channel.
Yeah.
I'm very selective about brand deals. This month, I've actually have more brand deals coming than I've ever had before, and I think it's because travel's about to reopen, and creators
Yeah.
like me are suddenly going to become hotter commodities. But I would say that AdSense is number one. I also have a Patreon, and while not the largest stream of income, it's been very steady for the last 2 years, and they really helped me out when my views plummeted. We didn't even really talk about this, but when Corona hit,
Hmm.
I lost 50 or 60% of my viewers within 3 days. Within
Oh my
1 week, you
goodness.
could look at the graph in March and see interest plummet in travel content. So
Yeah. Of
they were
course.
there when my AdSense went down a lot. So that's another source. I'll sell some of my content to services that want to put it on their websites.
Oh, that's
That's
true.
been that's been
Travel.
interesting.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that makes us that type of content would sell well for agencies and companies, selling ads on different cities and travel, commercials and stuff.
yeah. I would say those are the big ones for me right now. Yeah.
What kind of value do you bring to the Patreon people, or do you just kind of hey, if you love my channel, you want to show your support, this is a way to do it. But do you give them like a live stream or anything like that, once a month, or I don't know?
I give them quite a lot. I think if you join my Patreon for $5, you get early access to my videos, which sometimes is like 3 days early, sometimes it's at night early. Every once in a while, it's an hour early. You'll see the video first. One live stream per month. I post little updates on there. If they join at $10 or higher, I give them access to a map that I created of New York. It's like an app called Mapster.
Oh,
So they
cool.
have access to like almost any place I've ever visited in any video, like 350 locations on this map on their phone. So they could be walking New York and be like, did John cover this area? And they could zoom in and see.
Oh, that's
Uh,
cool.
yeah, that's a cool one for them. And then I think at $25, if they're that tier for a certain amount of time, they get merchandise. And then $100, I'll do a 1 hour phone call with them, like a
Mhm.
consultation. And I've had some people actually surprisingly pay for that, which is great because they value my time and they get an hour face to
Yeah.
face with me to talk about whatever they want.
Well,
So
yeah,
yeah,
yeah, I do owe you $100 after this conversation.
you owe me. Oh,
We're
maybe I owe
about
you $100.
No, that's cool. Yeah, I was just asking for a friend, honestly for myself. I'm just curious about Patreon, and it's interesting how YouTube has a membership solution built in, but I just see so many creators using Patreon. I guess because it's a third party, and you can get people who don't even watch your videos, maybe follow you on Instagram or whatever. It's just outside of YouTube, and it's kind of accepted now. It seems like almost everybody understands what Patreon is. And hey, if you want to subscribe to my Patreon, like that's everybody says that. It seems to be kind of culturally accepted. So it
Yeah.
makes sense. And you have some great like things on your Patreon. I've know a couple of creators who just have it there, and they say, "Hey, I I'm not going to give you anything. Just subscribe if you want to, like so."
Yeah, that's fine too. I wanted to give them as much value as I could, and I really like the Patreon community. I also have a Facebook group. Like I'll post little
Oh,
updates in
cool.
there about like New York City or other things. So I feel like they get a lot of access if they spend like just like I wanted the lowest tier to provide a lot of value. Like if you just have $5 a month, I want you to feel like you got $20 worth of value out of this. That's the way I look at it.
That's awesome, man. Um, so I mean, what's next for you? What are you looking forward to this year? I mean, you brought up a good point that probably in the next couple months, creators like yourselves are probably going to start to see a spike, and then just that's going to like land the plane beautifully in November when that AdSense goes through the roof. So
Oh yeah, I'm excited.
November and December and January are like the best. I guess you could probably even throw October in there. But man, November, December, whew, the AdSense money is insane.
Yeah, I believe last month, or maybe it wasn't last month, but it was some kind of a 30-day window. I had about 1 million views, which was the first time I'd hit that since about February of 29, February 2020. So it was almost a year since I
Mhm.
got, so I feel like my channel is pretty much back to the level it was at pre-pandemic. Now, hoping with tourism coming back, New York reopening soon, I think they're going to allow people from Europe and the UK, which is a big audience of my channel, to re-enter the US. So I'm just looking to go full steam.
Heck yeah, man.
I'm looking to add some travel content. I'm going to be going this summer. I guess I haven't really announced this anywhere publicly until here. I told my Patreon I'm planning on going to Greece and Turkey, so I
Awesome,
want to
man.
make some content out there. I want people to realize that I'm not just a New York City creator. And a case in point, I was in Chicago and I was filming a video with a local YouTuber there, and we're walking on the train tracks. So I call my viewers. I have a little nickname. I say members of the barrio. What's up? Something like that. And he
Yeah.
said, "Yo, Barrio John, what's up?" I'm like, "Hey." He's like, "What are you doing here?" I'm like, "Oh, I'm making a video." And I realized, like, of course he would say that because he thinks that I just make New York content. So I'm trying to
Yeah.
break out of just being a New York creator and
Yeah.
showing people that I'm more versatile and like, follow my stuff. If I'm still going to do mostly New York content. I'm never going to go back to where I was in 2017, 2018. I have
Hmm.
too many ties here right now,
Yeah.
but I want to,
You can still
maybe,
travel.
yeah, I can
Yeah.
still travel from time to time. Say, hey, you like this style of content? Check me out in Nashville. Check me out
Yeah, man.
in
Get some.
Paris.
We'll have to hook up.
Yeah,
Get some hot chicken.
yeah. Let's do a video of like Nashville's best food or something. I'm down.
Oh my gosh, we'd be so fat. I found
Yeah,
right down the street from my house is just a little food truck. We've driven by it, ever since we lived here the last 2 months, and it's a rib smoked barbecue, big
man.
smoker. And I'm like, there's always a line wrapped around. I'm like, that place is probably really good, but I just never went to it. This weekend, we bought a rack of ribs and chicken. I swear to you, it's the best freaking ribs I've ever had in my entire life. Like, unbelievably just perfect. The smoky flavor, the way the meat fell off the bone. Ah, I'm getting hungry right now. I could eat it every day.
You're
It
getting me
was
hungry just describing it.
but yeah, I mean, it's real exciting to hear that, man, and I'm excited for you, and I'm glad that we met, and I'm gonna be following your channel. And again, if you're listening to the show and you're not a subscriber already, go subscribe now to John Barr's channel. We'll link it in the description. We'll link it in the show notes. John, to kind of close us out here, what is one mistake that you've made along the way on your journey on YouTube that you would kind of have as a cautionary tale to anybody else getting started on YouTube?
Wow, I could give you 10 mistakes just to say one. Just to say one, like
You
one
could give
big
me a
mistake.
couple.
Okay.
Give me two or three if you want. It's fine.
Okay, one would be taking shortcuts of with your channel, trying to grow by spamming groups and not actually creating good content. Because if you create good content, subscribers will find you. If you get views, the subscribers will follow. Don't assume getting subscribers in any way, shape, or form is actually going to help you grow your channel. They might just hit
Yeah.
subscribe and never watch again. I would say two is knowing who your audience is. If you don't really have a focus, if you think you can just make random content, there's very
Yeah.
few channels that can get away with that. There's very few personalities out there that can do that. They exist, and maybe you find them because they're so big on YouTube. But if you can narrow down your niche a bit, you're going to make your life so much easier. I did that myself when I just started really focusing on New York City. I don't regret it at all, even though it will make my travel stuff more difficult.
Something else that I maybe you could add to this. I mean, it sounds like you do collaborate with a lot of people, and I think having people in your life that you can collaborate with, whether it's a shooter, editor, or other YouTubers that can kind of reinvigorate your creative juices, if you will. Just being around other like-minded people for me
Oh
has
yeah,
been huge.
oh, for sure. Collaborating with other channels. And they don't even have to be a YouTuber if you're in some kind of a niche on YouTube where you can just get other people. I guess with vlogging, it's easier. It's going to make your videos more entertaining. Like, I don't care how funny you are, you're always going to be better when you start to mix in other personalities and other characters onto your channel. I mean, it might be a little trickier if you're like a tech review channel and you're always home.
Yeah.
Maybe you don't need that. But then you could do what Jevin, our mutual friend, has done, where he's even gotten me onto a video talking about my camera in New York. You could still collaborate with people just
Yeah.
with the power of the internet. They could send you stuff. Like, don't overlook that. And not even for them to share you with their audience, but actually of creating better content by just having more people and more perspectives on the channel. And probably the last one, and maybe the most important, and I would describe this as my driver's ed teacher when I was driving, saying, if there's one thing you remember, it's always check your blind spot when you pull out of a spot. I would
Mm.
say, if there's one thing you remember about my advice today, it's never, ever, ever underestimate those first 30 seconds. Like, whatever your title is, get to that title immediately. Like, have people justify it and the reason they clicked on your video, because there's nothing worse than doing something stupid in the intro that gets people uninterested, and your other 9 minutes are great. They took you 12 hours to edit, and your video is about best fried chicken in New York. But in the intro, you tried making some jokes about something with your wife, and people think, I don't have time for this. Because remember,
Yeah.
YouTube, in a sense, is a way for people to distract themselves. And if they don't get what they came there for quickly, they're going to find someone else.
I saw a tweet yesterday. YouTube just shared data on the most used intro greetings.
Ooh.
Number one, hey guys. Between 2010 and 2020, YouTube started they put together a graph here. Number two is good morning. Or no, number two is what's up. Number 3 is good morning. Hi guys. All right. Hey everyone. Basically, just get to the point already. You know what I mean?
Do what Mr. Beast does. If his video is about burying himself in Nerf balls, his intro is going to be, "Today I'm going to bury myself in 1,000 Nerf balls." He literally just restates the title.
Exactly.
That's the easiest way to do any video on YouTube. If you just restate your title in the first 2 to 3 sentences, I think you're doing better than most people.
100%. And he's a good person to look up to because he's crushing it. So
Yeah, completely.
Um, anyways, thank you so much, John, for coming on the Golden Hour podcast. It was a real pleasure. I loved this interview because I think you just have a great perspective on things coming from broadcast journalism to now being a full-time creator for the last couple years, transitioning your channel, seeing the growth. So excited for your future. And I'm thankful that we got to meet each other, and we'll stay in touch for sure, man. This is awesome.
Thank you so much, Dave, for having me. I hope your audience enjoys my perspectives. I'm definitely going to keep watching your podcast
Thanks,
as
man.
well.
Thank you a lot. Let's get you to 200K. I'm sure you're already there by the time people watch this. But
Hope
if you're
so.
not, go over there. What are you doing? Come on, let's go. You'll probably hit it tomorrow, to be honest.
No, probably a week, maybe less. We'll
Well,
see.
perfect. This podcast is coming out next week, so let's do it.
Awesome.
Thanks, John.
Thank you.
Hope you guys enjoyed my conversation with John Barr from Here Be Barr. If you haven't subscribed, please do so now. Subscribe down below for the Golden Hour podcast, but also go subscribe to John's channel. I find it so entertaining. He's done so many great shows I say shows, but videos about New York City, as well as all sorts of other places. You heard in the podcast, he's going to be going overseas in different countries over the next couple of months. So I'm excited to follow his journey. I love travel vlogs. These are great. And it was really exciting for me to interview him and kind of learn more about this niche. Let me know your thoughts down below. And if you enjoyed this video, you might enjoy my conversation with Jevin Dovey, our mutual friend. And let's see, let me throw another one up here. Sarah Dici. All right, guys. Once again, I'm your host, Dave Mays. This is the Golden Hour Podcast. I'll see you next week.